the domestics were sent in the car to fetch us from school, and we were already told while we were in school that he had been shot and injured badly and taken to the hospital. So when we came home, there was blood all over the floor, but he'd been taken to the hospital.
The body was brought from Parliament here and kept in the sitting room for 2 days. Then it was taken to the grounds which we selected where he is buried now, and buried there. I had 3 children who were very young when my husband died, and the party was of course going to pieces, so I had decided between the party and the children. So I had to think of both. So then I of course took a long time to decide. I consulted, of course, this was the one who really persuaded me to do it. But Chandrika and Anura were forcing me. I think Peiris had got it because I had to put on the children, not Sunethra, of course. They said, "Amma, why don't you do it? Tata's party. You have to save the party. You can, I don't know who can say save it. Chandrika and Anura, not Sunethra."
One Sunday, I still remember very well, at that time we were mad on pop music and all that, and we used to have this listener's choice on Sundays from 2 to 5, and we used to be glued to the radio listening to this. And he barged in one Sunday when I was listening to this, and I said, "I want to talk to you." And I was annoyed that he was disturbing my listening program. And he sat there in the sitting room at Rosemary Place and spoke to me for 1 hour, and at the end of the 1 hour, he had persuaded me that I should persuade my mother to come in, actively into politics. And I still remember the one sentence that persuaded me was, I can't remember anything else. I was arguing with him all the time, arguing against him. There was the sentence where he said, "Well, your father gave his life to this party and to this movement, and are you going to allow all that to be wasted? Because if you are not going to allow your mother to come into this and take the leadership of this whole thing, it's going to be finished." And something happened inside me, and I got highly emotional and all that, and I thought, yes, this is true. Okay, for a short time, let her do it. And then I went. He obviously realized the right person to persuade. I went to Sunethra and spoke to her. She said, "Oh, I don't care, let them do anything," because by this time we were all sick of this, because people were trying to persuade us to persuade her, you see. And she said, "You do what you like, I won't object." Then I persuaded Anura. He was very small then, but it took a little more time. And then I went and started telling her, "You should do this."
If they could have done that to the man who did so much for the country, it was first of all living here, I want to get out of the country, but my parents wouldn't hear of it. But my mother said, "You also want to go and get killed." She was trying to discourage me. Even my brothers and sisters do not have to have paper out at all. I said, "Well, I can't help it if I am going to get killed for the country, I'll do it." I had great faith in most of gods, mainly Katragama and Vishnu. When I had decided to take to politics, I went to my shrine room, spent hours there, and appealed to the gods to please guide me and tell me what I should do. And I think I was given inspiration.
When my father died, I was 16, Chandrika 14, and Anura was only 10. And we were all very seriously affected, particularly Anura. It wasn't too bad for my sister and me, but I think it was really very bad for my brother, because the shock of my father's death and the fear that the same thing could happen to his mother really used to upset him a great deal. And I was told by my aunts, I don't remember this, that when she used to get ready and get into the car to go to the office or wherever, he used to come crying and hang on her sari and beg of her not to go, because he must have thought in small little boy's mind, my goodness, my mother is going away now, she's never going to come back.
When she became Prime Minister in 1960 July, the whole scenario changed because she couldn't possibly be at home. And then we had to move from this house in 1961 after the attempted coup by some of the armed forces personnel, and they felt this place was not safe. So we moved to Temple Trees, and we lived there till 1965. And I was sleeping in the same room as until about 1964.
Because my mother was a very stable, strong, calm person, I think we had a very calm life. It didn't upset us until my father's assassination, which sort of turned the tables over completely, I think, for all of us, and it affected perhaps some of us more than the others of the three children. Until then we had a very stable, calm life that also influenced us and probably helped all three of us to overcome better than most people the problems that we had to face and the crises at different times, because we had a very good, strong grounding before in that sense in the home background.
At the age of 6, there was an old astrologer in this area where my mother used to consult. She was a great believer in astrology. One day this man, while reading her horoscope, had told my father, "Sir, this young lady will one day be the king of this country. Rajaveno." My father laughed, the biggest laugh of his life. He said, "I am mad. We are under the British. How can a girl become anything in this country?" I mean, that time ladies were not in politics either. He said, right, if I live to see it one day, I will come and talk to you, but unfortunately that old man died before she became Prime Minister.
I think part it was sympathy. Mainly it was sympathy. Because as widow, and when I spoke to women were crying. At meetings they used to cry. That's how I knew it was sympathy. And the men also, I was surprised the men supported me fully. Otherwise I couldn't have won. And they all realized, especially because my husband was so popular, somebody is coming to take his place. That was one of the reasons why I think they really supported me. I was in mourning. I was mourning clothes. No jewelry, nothing, just only sari and white sari. For 3 years I mourned. So that was, I think, brought sympathy. Not that I wanted sympathy, but that was my feeling. I thought I mustn't go colored. And that was helped, I think.
I met her when she came to office for the first time after swearing in the cabinet, which took about, if I remember, about 6 or 7 days after the elections, because cabinet making was a little complex because there was a three-party coalition. And when eventually she turned up and we sat together, both of us alone, for the first time, I had to ask her a particular question because I was young. I was perhaps just a little over 32 years at the time, and I want to get the parameters right. And so I asked her, "Madam, now that you have appointed me as your secretary, could you please let me know whether I have the license to tell you exactly what I feel is the facts, are the facts and the correct position, or am I supposed to read your mind and say what you would like to hear?" I think she was taken aback, but very soon regained the composure somewhat, and she said, "Heaven keep me from people who would tell me what I would like to hear." She used to come by about 9:30, 10 in the morning, having attended to those boxes and other matters at Temple Trees, and then she would go on virtually till about 3:34 without a break. She would read a paper very carefully, and all her secretaries or anybody who sent a paper to her had to be quite alert, because this was not a routine matter. Many were the times when she had altered or adjusted a draft, and many were the times we felt that those adjustments were very valid, and we had not sometimes seen a particularly important issue. In a way we had seen the trees but not the wood. But she saw the wood. She was able to go on and on, but never being ruffled, always looking very cool and very relaxed. This is something that it was difficult for us to, because we used to wilt after a few hours. But she had this ability to sit there. She hardly got up from a seat, and just to go on and on. And this was really a phenomenal thing.
We knew that if we wanted her for anything at all, she was there for us. She used to always say, look, if I were you, this is the way I would do it. She's a solid anchor, totally dependable at all times. Never gave the impression that she would waver or be timid or look over her shoulder or take 2 steps back. Never. So she had this great quality of being unemotional. That is not to say she was ruthless or heartless, but she was unemotional.
I think she has a really easy natural charm about her. She smiles very easily, which is very important. And I think she gets on, she basically likes people, though she's a little aloof at times. She gets on well with people. And I think she has this natural sort of thing in her. Oh, she has tremendous charisma, even though she's now 80. She has tremendous charisma. But that's what kept the SLP going for so long. Because you see, the SLP's record between 70 and 77 was dismal. And people had lost all faith that the SLP would ever deliver the goods. And she kept it going in spite of all that. And brought it back as a fighting force. So others were able to carry on what she took over, what she carried on, took over from where she stopped. It's a party with varying philosophies, unlike the UNP, which is one philosophy. And to keep such disparate forces together with alliances with Marxists and communists and right-wing parties and communal parties, but to keep them all together for so long is a tremendous achievement. And I think she's essentially a quintessential politician, which my father was not. He was very much more interested in other things, reading and playing billiards, and he used to go for weekends and all that, to Horowald and so on. My father is just politics 24 hours a day.
Well, I think she has achieved an immense lot of things. Especially being the first woman Prime Minister, it wasn't easy. She was not trained into politics like my father or even, let us say, even myself. And given all those shortcomings, let us say, I think she did excellently well. She of course had very good advisors at the time, but she just took to it like a duck to water, and she has done some of the most long-lasting, most historic things, adopted the most important policies which are still going on today.
When she walked into a cabinet meeting, I don't know what it was like when my father did it. I suppose he walked in laughing, joking, smoking his pipe with his arm round a minister, immediate informality. But she used to walk in looking very stern, holding her file in her hand. All the ministers used to rise up, silence, she'll come, pull her chair back, sit down very sternly. And that set the pace for the cabinet meeting, And even in 1971, I wasn't in the country at that time. Soon after the insurgency, while the thing was going on, people used to tell me she was the only man in the cabinet. The ministers used to come there, the army generals, the police chiefs, with their knees knocking together, Madam, oh God, we are going to die, they are going to kill us. She used to trot off to the kitchen, make sure that there was enough food to feed all these quivering masses who were there. She sailed through it.
That's why I think Sir John said, no, there's only one woman in the cabinet, one man in the cabinet. Biggest contribution was settling of the Indo-Ceylon Pact. There was 4 prime ministers tried, they failed. And finally we succeeded in drawing South Africa. That was not implemented by the UMP government, but anyway we did that. It was not an easy thing. When Shastri was prime minister, and then, and also having an online conference in Colombo. That was another achievement of mine.
පොළසන් හඬ මැද ශ්‍රී ලංකා අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමිය සභාවට පිවිසෙයි. The 1962nd plenary meeting of the General Assembly is called to order. We shall continue the general debate. The first speaker this morning is the Prime Minister and Minister of Defense and External Affairs of Ceylon, Her Excellency the Honorable Sirimavo R.D. Bandaranaike.
Democracy in Ceylon faced its severest test early this year when an attempt was made by a revolutionary group to shatter the fabric of the system by violence. The protagonists were avowed enemies of the democratic process and were committed to a career of reckless destruction with no coherent policy or program of social and economic reconstruction to offer.
When I spoke to some of those boys who were arrested and brought on the first day, and I realized that the main thing was employment and lack of land. There no land, so that's why I decided to have land reform, to start talking to those boys.
I don't know of any other leader in this entire world who gave up the only wealth they have, bringing in a policy of their own free will to give it up to the state, because she believed it had to be done. Well, whether